We've been very fortunate, not even in the public sphere, but in our educational spaces as well. We've been very fortunate with some of the artists that we've been able to bring in. I think one of my favorite memories this year was, and again, thanks to the With Plan Foundation, we were able to do this, but we brought in an artist called Sonia de los Santos, and she's a Grammy-nominated artist that teaches children how to sing in Spanish. And so we typically, many times a year, will bring in over 500 kids for free, which is something that you just don't get. I mean, typically that's a charged thing, but we really think it's important. Again, how do we get that next generation in for free? And so we've been very fortunate with what we've been able to do at the Millwald.
My daughter has benefited from those programs as a student at Spiller. She's gotten to see some great things that she wouldn't ordinarily get to see, like the young lady who did Harriet Tubman. And
oh, that was such a good one. Yes,
I'm sure that would have been fantastic. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen that myself. But,
it was called the Spirit of Harriet Tubman, and she's an actor from Canada. And again, it came from going to these national conferences where we, I'll go and talk to folks and figure out what art to bring back to Withville. But what was amazing about that show is it landed right in a great time where, the Spirit of Harriet Tubman not only is an important story to tell, but it also directly connected with Virginia standards of learning. Mm-hmm. And we're always trying to figure out, when we bring those educational events, how do we connect to what you're learning today, and how do we find the intersection of whatever art you're seeing and something else? So, for example, not a lot of folks know this, but we work with the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra many, many times throughout the year to bring educational programs. So one of the last ones that we did was the science of sound. So the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra taught about decibel meters and all kinds of things, again, to teach about the intersection of music and science. Because maybe a child comes and maybe they're not interested in being a musician, but they get really interested in science from that event. And so those are just really great programs and some of my favorites that we've done.
Well, it was funny, Donnie, you said to me, I was in my 30s before I saw my first symphonic concert. And I saw my first symphonic concert just 2 years ago. I went to Raleigh to see the North Carolina Symphony do a tribute to Phil Collins and Genesis, whom you know is my favorite. The conductor that conceived that program travels all over the country and performs it with various orchestras. So I told him to please get with RSO and bring it there. But but I saw that, and then I went to Winston-Salem back in April and saw the Winston-Salem Symphony's tribute to Tina Turner. So yes, I have seen a couple of other symphonic shows, but again, I had to travel out of town to see them. So this will be a symphonic concert in my hometown. It hopefully will be a very romantic evening for my wife and I. And thank you very, very much for hosting us in the Allegro lawn. We're excited and looking forward to it. And in that instance where you have a space, are you allowed to sell more tickets that way? That should be beneficial also for the Millwald, should it not?
Absolutely. Obviously a much bigger space, and so our capacity increases a lot. I do think it's probably going to take us a few events to really get there. I think, as with anything, there's a lot of sense making needed to get the community used to coming in for an event like that. But absolutely, to answer your question, I do have a question for you. I'm curious. You were saying that you had visited Winston and Raleigh for the tribute shows. Had you not went to those tribute shows, do you think that you would be as interested in this orchestra concert if you had not been to those concerts to kind of get your feet wet on symphonic music?
For me, no, because I had been growing up seeing the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra host people like these legendary people like Lou Rawls and Natalie Cole, who are unfortunately no longer with us, and I couldn't go to those shows. And I thought, man, what a great opportunity that must be. But on the one hand, having been to those shows, I see how fantastic they really are. And since I've been to them since the Millwald is open, I would be running back to you and saying, as I do all the time, Donnie, I've been to see this. We need to get this here, because when I see something great, I think, Whitfield deserves to have it, like when David Payne brought his C.S. Lewis, people wouldn't understand unless I think they'd been to it how good that was. And if you hadn't been kind enough to host me for that show, I don't know that I would have gone on my own. But I went and I saw it, and it was unbelievable. And I got to tell the community how unbelievable it was. And it opens. We do need to open up this community to a variety of artistic opportunities. So
yes, I think you really hit the nail on the head, and it's part of why I was asking. I think, and also it's part of why, if you look around, you typically see some of the same things being offered over and over and over again, which is great, and there's definitely an audience for that. But one of the things that we're trying to do at the Millwald is have something for everybody. And at first, that's going to mean that we're going to have, we basically have to make it relevant for you, right? It was the reason why I asked. It was so interesting of you to say, like, gosh, I don't know if I would have went to C.S. Lewis, or I don't think that I would be as interested in the symphony had I not gone to these tribute shows. It's all about what makes it relevant for you, and I don't mean Zach, but I mean each individual. How do we at the Millwald open a door for you to come in and experience something that you've never experienced before? So maybe for symphonic music, that Genesis concert, that was the door for you. So now you're more interested in symphonic music, or maybe another member of this community. We tried Roanoke Symphony Orchestra around the holidays first. If you've been to the brass quintet and watched them play holiday music, that might get you more interested in coming to the park concert, because you know how wonderful that experience is. And I think that goes back to your other question, is it a transition? Certainly it is that transition, because we're in a fortunate place to have the Millwald, but it is something that the community is still getting used to. And so we have to create these relevant experiences to kind of introduce you to this art form. It's been so interesting to me, like, say, for example, we brought in Eric Gales. Eric Gales is an amazing blues musician, Grammy Award winning. He did the part of the music for the movie Sinners that just came out. So good. But, we had a really great audience that came out, and a lot of folks hadn't heard of Eric. We brought him back the next year, and we had even more people come up and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea how incredible he is. And I think, especially in today's world where we're competing with Netflix and Apple TV, you've got everything in the palm of your hand. It's harder, A, to get people to come out, but B, just as an individual, you're getting things at such a lightning speed. We as a society don't want to, it's more challenging almost to try things that you don't know about, because you're just getting everything thrown at you so fast. So it's amazing to me, when folks do come to the theater and they have such a great experience, having never experienced that kind of event before. And I think it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow, because the more we can get the community used to things like symphonic concerts or a blues musician, the more popular that's going to become. So that's very interesting that you said that that Genesis symphonic concert was kind of the door for you to enjoy more symphonic music.
Sure, I always wanted to go to the symphony because I thought, I love music, and it would be a very classy thing to do to get all dudded up and go to the symphony. But what I learned is when you're going to concerts like these, you don't necessarily have to have black tie and tails.
No, not at all.
You can come as you are, and it's very informal, but there are so many great programs like the Genesis concert, or you may have a tribute to the Beatles or Pink Floyd or whatever it is. I saw somebody do an orchestral tribute to Ozzy Osbourne when he passed away.
Wow.
So I mean, you can translate anything really into orchestral symphonic music, and there's so many great touring programs like the Phil Collins show, like the Tina Turner show, that we need to get here that people would really enjoy. And it's not always Beethoven and Bach, and I mean that's great in and of itself, but it's not always that, and it's things that would, for lack of a better phrase, get some butts in the seats, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're all trying to do.
Well, I think you've really hit the point, is that Genesis concert was the door for you. So maybe you might, if you do get the opportunity to go to a Bach concert, maybe you'll do that because maybe you're a fan of symphonic music now. I know growing up, and a lot of people think that, concerts like that might be stuffy, especially if they've never been to one.
Sure. And
maybe you have to dress up, and then they get there and they realize that, to your point, oh, wow, that wasn't it at all. This is nothing like I thought. So I think that's the challenge for theaters in general, is making sure that, again, we provide opportunities for you to feel like you're invited, and to feel like it's a space for you as well. So that way you can experience those events and come to other ones as well.
And I think this is a very important point, and I mean it applies to me specifically, but not just to me, is that there are so many things as a physically challenged person that I simply cannot do. There are no tour bus companies that do these day trips, sunshine tours. None of those have wheelchair accessible traveling options, except Abbott Trailways has one bus that has a lift. So as someone who likes to travel, as someone who likes to see things, particularly arts, there's a limit to what I can do. And that's why my wife says, if you see a concert that you want to go to and we can afford it, you go to it, because there's not a lot of things that you can do. So I'm very grateful that my hometown provides me with something that I can do, and I'm not restricted in any way. And it's just around the corner for me. And if I want to come to any and all Millwald shows, they're open to me. And I have the wonderful capacity through my vocation to be able to be hosted by you wonderful folks and tell the community about how great the Millwald is. But even if I did not, the fact that I can go around the corner and see anything that I want to see, and things that I've never seen, is really such a gift. And I must say that you have the greatest team in the world. Corey, who's done so many videos and photos for you all. He has been a very dear friend for the last 25 years, over half my life. Maston, I've known always. Lydia, I've known since she was born, practically. She's my neighbor.
I think the whole town has, yeah.
And I think, like you said, it makes me a bit emotional, but you called me a part of the Millwald family. But it is like we're all a family, and we're all working together to try to make this thing work. Because we see the Millwald, not just the theater, but Millwald Incorporated, as the crown jewel of Whitfield that it once was, and that we believe it can be again in a different, much larger way.
Well, thank you that's so kind of you to say that. First of all, I'd have to agree with you. I feel very fortunate for the staff that I thankfully inherited when I came in. They just do such an amazing job, and I've told them many times, you don't typically find the kind of patience and perseverance that we do with our staff, that we do other places. And I would be remiss to say, in terms of that Millwald family, I would certainly include the businesses that have supported us and the community members. I think that's one of the things that is really amazing to me in this community, is that we have so many supporters that just, not only do they show up at events, but they support us every year by joining our memberships. And we have, speaking of the symphony one, we have community groups that know that in order to get things like the symphony, they need to support, and we'll do that however that is possible, whether it's a Facebook post or sponsoring an event or something like that. But this community has really stepped up to be a part of that Millwald family, and it's really enduring. I mean, it just seems like we're all in this together, to make sure that it is something that the community can be proud of.
We want it to succeed, and we want the Millwald to be recognized at a national level, so that Vicki Lawrence or even Diana Ross or Gladys Knight says, I've heard of the Millwald. I'd like to play there. Well, it's just a 500-seater. Well, it doesn't matter. It's the Millwald. Because, like sort of the Barter Theater, the reputation it has around the world. And it's just a tiny little theater, but it's the longest running state theater in the history of the nation, and it was started by Robert Porterfield, who was born right here in Wythe County. So I too went to Barter Theater when I was in the second grade and saw the Emperor's New Clothes, and was absolutely enamored. And it made me so sad when you said that people would rather sit at home and stream something than to go out and see a live event, because it's a slap in the face to me, because it's like, you can walk, you can drive a car, you don't have to get somebody to get you there, and
right.
And you're turning down this golden opportunity. You don't have the financial difficulties that I may have, or the physical difficulties, but you'd rather sit at home, on your duff and stream something on TV. For me, there is nothing like live entertainment. Absolutely nothing. My first concert was Tina Turner when I was 12 years old, and I was hooked from that moment on. And I have seen every live act that I have ever wanted to see, just about. There's still a few, and there's a few that have passed that I'll never get to see that I wished I could, but I will never turn down an opportunity to see a great live show. And the fact that it's just around the corner, and it's in a building that means so much to me personally, to my family, to a part of who I am, as well as a part of the community that I've been proud to call home my whole life. Why would we not? Why would we not want this to succeed?
2020 really changed. 2020 really changed how we view entertainment. I think, unfortunately, we were all stuck in our homes, and so for what I think it is, and I do think the trend is shifting. People are more risk averse. I think, what if I get sick and I can't go, or what if something comes up? I think that's a lot of it. We know data tells us that ticket sales in general just come last minute now, and they didn't used to. And it's a headache for me and any other venue manager in the country. But unfortunately, that's just the reality of the world. It's interesting that you brought that up about Barter Theater's reputation and what they've been able to do. I do think that goes back to your original question of coming from Blumenthal to the Millwald, and I was talking about not letting the size of the venue get in my head, but rather how do we push forward and be something really great. And I think that's a great example of the Barter. They became this national standard in repertory theater because of the really great programs they did. And if you look at the history of that theater, they could have closed during the Great Depression. They got creative. They started the barter system, which thankfully we have that wonderful name now for the Barter.
Right. And
even in 2020, it was interesting. They instead of shutting down and saying, "Well, we'll see what happens," they got to work and they got creative. They started doing plays out at a drive-in theater, and I would hear about the Barter.
Yes.
It would make me so happy being local. I would hear about the Barter Theater from national lectures, like from people of like the Broadway League, talking about we should all be creative like the Barter, which made me so happy.
Yeah.
But it's true. They're not. They got to work, and that's part of why they have the reputation that they do, because they're just a fantastic organization.
They leased the Moonlight Theater, and we saw live theater from the stage. It was one of the best times during the pandemic. Such great memories, I could even bring my dog to the play with me. It was wonderful, And it's great memory. My dog has now passed away, but
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, she died this year, and it broke our hearts because we had her for 12 of her 14 years, and she was our first baby. So she was Bella's sister. So it's really broken our hearts.
Yeah.
But that memory, I said, Sophie's sophisticated now. She's a theater pup. She goes to the theater with us. And of course, we stopped at Pal's on the way, and she got a Pal's cheeseburger, which was her favorite part of the evening. So,
goodness.
But it was, those are great memories. I took 3 generations of my family, me and Bella and my mom, to see a double feature at Halloween. They did Dracula and they did Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And they did Christmas Carol that year, and it was just wonderful what they did, and it was such a sad, scary, depressing time, and they brought light to us, and I was still able to do my job. That's what I do. I do columns. I go out and review things, and I was able to do my job for real during the pandemic, and it was.
I love you saying that it brought life. I think when we think about the arts, that's what it is. It's a community gathering that we need more of today, and it brings you hope. It brings cultural understanding. It brings you joy, and you having that memory of going to the Barter during that time. That's a good memory, especially when you're thinking about your sweet dog that's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good memory that you have, and that's going to always put a fond place in your heart for the Barter, because you have that memory, and that's what the arts do for us.
And when we were in a place during COVID where we thought live entertainment might go away and never come back, that was a really scary thing for me. because live entertainment, as I've explained during this very generous hour that you've given me, has been able to take me places that my life could not. And Millwald has done that. Barter has done that. These live shows have done that. And that I get to experience it in this town that I love so much, this community that I love so much, this place that I love so much. It's just around the corner, and you all being so welcoming to me. It's more than just a career opportunity for me. So you've given me way more of your time than I asked of you. Thank you for this conversation.
You're so welcome.
I'm very happy to have the opportunity to tell you at length what it has meant to me to be a part of the Millwald experience, because it's so much more than you giving me a couple of comp tickets and me watching a show. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity to tell you that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, truly.
Oh, well, thank you. And like I said, you're part of the family, and we're very lucky to work with you, and you've just helped us out so much. So
mutual admiration and respect, and we have bonded today over that 101 Dalmatians thing. I don't know if thank you. Three
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.